Hey everyone, Ponylover1989 here, and welcome to another reaction episode. Do you know what I did when I was doing the first reaction video for you, Uwe? I forgot to turn the light on. I don't know why I did a reaction video in the dark. I turned it on so you could see better. Okay. Hope you enjoyed my reaction to the Flanderization of Power Rangers, a caricature of Mighty Morphin. Now I'm going to do another suggested reaction video for you, Uwe, formerly known as Something Different 765. It is Mr. Enter Doesn't Understand Camp Lazlo, a response by Camp Lazlo. As Mr. Enter already did a review on Camp Lazlo, Cartoon Network's biggest accident. Yeah, this was uploaded 2 months ago, so anyway, the video that Camp Lazlo made was released a month ago. So let's begin in 3, 2, 1 and react.
I've always had a soft spot for the Cartoon Network series Camp Lazlo.
Pokemon.
Yeah, it's hard
Is
to
it
objectively
Pokemon
call
Heart
it some
Gold or
landmark
Soul Silver?
masterpiece of animation, but it was never really trying to be. It instead wanted to be a grounded, cozy, but still high-energy show that perfectly captured that feeling of being a kid outside in nature, making the most out of summer vacation. Alongside a funny cast of characters, beautiful art direction, and an absolutely killer voice cast, I consider it to be an underrated Cartoon Network classic. And from the looks of it,
playing
quite
the
a few
National
people seem to
Park
share
from
that sentiment.
Pokemon
While
Heart
there are
Gold
also
and
a
Soul
good amount
Silver.
of people who don't like the show, I've never seen anyone who has active resentment towards it. At worst, they just find it kind of mediocre. That was before I came across the mysterious Mr. Enter's recent video on it. In this video, Mr. Enter states that he finds the show to be not just bad, but absolutely atrocious. On the same level of bad as stuff like My Gym Partner's a Monkey and
My
Squirrel
Gym
Boy.
Partner's a Monkey and
Cartoons that,
Squirrel
mind
Boy?
you, he called among the worst of the entire 2000s decade. The episode he talks about to try and illustrate his hatred of the show, keyword being try,
I think it was based on Rocco's Modern
where
Life.
Lazlo desperately needs to pee after beating Edward in a lemonade drinking contest. And Edward, being bitter about losing, tries to keep Lazlo from finding a bathroom. When that fails, he tricks him into wearing a diaper. I thought this episode was pretty funny, but it's nowhere near the show's best. As for my thoughts on Mr. Enter as a critic, all I'm gonna say for now is that the quality of his content makes Midwest weather look consistent.
This was March 19th.
I also don't feel the need to discuss his background either because, let's be real, for one reason or another,
Putting Your Hoof
all
Down.
know who Mr. Enter
The
is.
episode
Let's just
from
focus
My
on
Little
his
Pony
last
season
I also feel like I should
2,
address this because I know I'm gonna have a few people thinking I'm just being
where
super duper
Iron Will
butthurt that he's
debuted.
hating on something that I like. I could not give less of a shit if a reviewer does or doesn't agree with my opinion on a piece of media, let alone a children's cartoon. What does matter is that regardless of their stance, they're able to properly defend their case by presenting sensible and well thought out points in a cohesive manner. I personally hate this recent Twitter trend where people immediately write off reviews before watching them, simply because they don't agree with the thumbnail, or they don't like their stance, or something dumb like that. People should always, without fail, be given the chance to properly communicate their thoughts before getting flack for them. So you know what, Enter? The floor is all yours. Tell us why this episode of Camp Lazlo and the show as a whole are such ungodly abominations that they retroactively started the Black Death in both world wars. Show us what you got.
15 minutes
15
later.
minutes.
Well, that was a
later.
video equivalent to backwashing diarrhea. Okay, we've got a lot to unpack with this one. So let's start around the 1 minute mark, as that's where he starts to explain why he thinks the show as a whole is bad.
At Camp Lazlo's absolute best, it is a pale imitation of SpongeBob. It
A
has
pale
the same basic
imitation
setup, with the
of
happy-go-lucky
SpongeBob?
idiot and his friends making things miserable for the grumps that surround him. However, Camp Lazlo lacks any sort of wit or charm, and more often than not, the episodes are tedious.
Happy-go-lucky
Oh,
protagonists
sorry.
weren't a new thing
My
even back
bedroom
when
light was
SpongeBob came
blinking
out. That
'cause
alone doesn't make
I
the
think
show
it's
a
on the
SpongeBob
verge of
knockoff.
needing
and on
a
the
new
topic of
light
SpongeBob,
bulb.
a lot of writers, artists, composers, and voice actors from the early seasons of that show would actually go on to make Lazlo. And to really bring things full circle, the creator of Lazlo also created Rocco's Modern Life in the 90s. And guess
That
who
was a-
worked on that show?
Stephen
Despite all of them having
Hillenburg, the
similar crews,
creator
I still
of
think Lazlo
SpongeBob.
does plenty to separate itself from SpongeBob from its more grounded, camp-related stories, and with a few exceptions, Most of the characters don't have a SpongeBob counterpart you could directly compare them to unless you really want to grasp at straws. So it's not like the character dynamics are completely the same. Acting like the show is just a bunch of hacks trying to imitate SpongeBob when a lot of them were the reason why SpongeBob got where it was to begin with is lame as hell. And the fact that he uses the SpongeBob argument without even briefly mentioning that they had similar crews is pretty telling of how much effort and research actually went into this review. As for his argument that the premise is apparently just dumb, nice guy and his friends make the grumps surrounding them miserable, what about that formula did the show do poorly to make it lacking in any wit or charm? I guess that'll just forever remain one of the great mysteries of the world, because he offers no further explanation for this, and immediately just jumps into complaining about the show having multiple sets of identical twins.
One thing that I complained about before is shows that have twins that act exactly the same. One character design, one character
Coconut
archetype.
Fred's Fruit Salad Island.
Camp Lazlo actually has this character type with Chip and Skip. It also has this character type with Dave and Ping Pong. And it has this type again with the 4 Lemming Brothers. All 3 sets of these duplicates act exactly the same as each other. And you can find this type of creativity in everything that is Camp Lazlo.
Now,
I wonder if this show is basically ripping off SpongeBob and Coconut
they
Fred.
should have had more distinct personalities from each other. But that's in part because outside of the Duns, neither of them are even all that relevant to the show. The Lemmings don't have a single starring
this is
episode.
the franchise I was telling you about. Pokemon. Why can't you guys just make me watch and react to the episodes and the movies? Why can't you? Put it on the comment down below. Why can't you? Why can't you make me watch and react to the episodes? You just suggest me to react to some of the titles besides Pokemon.
Critiques that, as we'll see later, won't even relate to why you hate the episode you're going to review.
Let's see here. The more down-to-earth guy who is the nicer, smarter assistant of the asshole that's in charge. Who does that make you think of? Waylon Smithers? Who's that? No, we're talking about Slinkman the Slug, the most original character of all time. TV Trope says that he's literally an XP, but that's not how XPs work.
It's like calling Coconut Fred an XP of
Similar
SpongeBob.
trope and ripoff aren't the same fucking thing. You could easily apply the same argument to Cornfed from Duckman, because he's also a deep voice, obedient assistant to the asshole in charge. But again,
is this made by the creator of Rugrats?
Isn't a good example of this trope, so I don't even know what you're trying to get at. He then calls out Clam for being a poor man's version of the quiet smart guy trope. Does he explain why Clam is a poor man's version of the quiet smart guy trope?
Miss Benson?
No.
Wow, who could have guessed?
Wow, who could have
He says
guessed?
some stuff that doesn't really matter. He whines about Raj's accent a little. Then we finally get to his review of the actual episode.
This episode starts with the lemonade drinking contest.
The lemonade drinking
Let me ask you a
contest.
riddle for the ages. Can Squidward ever win something against SpongeBob? No. What makes you
no.
think that Edward from Camp Lazlo ever had a chance?
Let's see how well you handle lemonade from concentrate.
He is the perpetual loser. And for him to win every now and again against our main character, that would be unpredictable and thus not welcome in the show.
You know what? Enter isn't wrong here. Edward has never been able to score a W before. You know, as long as you ignore the episode where his burp choir is successful, or the one where he beats Lazlo at kickball, or the episode
Capture
where he won
the
the race
flag.
and only got mad because his trophy was normal size instead of huge, or episodes like The List where he and Lazlo are on even footing, or, you know, the fact that Edward is a bad guy who goes out of his way to antagonize
wonder if
others
Edward
and never
is the
actually
same as
deserves
Squidward.
to win. Like, Enter, buddy, I know you have a history of not actually watching the shows you review, but even you have to admit this is getting kind of ridiculous.
Edward takes his lemonade without sugar, and we see here one of the main problems of the show overall. SpongeBob gets criticized for its over-the-top bases and its over-reliance on them, and that is certainly a problem with Neo SpongeBob. Camp Lazlo has the opposite problem, though. It's too restrained too often, making it look low-budget, like it's trying to fit in with the low-budget Flash cartoons of the time.
I really liked a lot of the expressions in Camp Lazlo, especially from the later episodes. They definitely don't push them as far as something like Ren and Stimpy or New SpongeBob, but there are still some damn funny ones, including a lot of the ones he cited as bad. But that alone is fine, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on that. No, the real problem is that he then backpedals and says the expressions aren't that bad, just mediocre. Not long after saying they were one of the main issues of a show he finds plain awful.
And if you don't believe me about the expressions,
That's gotta
see what
be
you think about some of
Pokemon
these.
Sacred Gold,
This is like
a ROM hack of
legitimately the best
Pokemon
the show
Heart
has to
Gold,
offer. It's
and
not
Soul
the
Silver.
worst in the world, to be fair, but it's like mediocre, like white bread with no butter mediocre.
Like, his arguments aren't even consistent in and of
Of
themselves.
course.
It's ridiculous how
Giovanni's
sloppy this whole thing is.
main-
It's like he read a script
main
outline
Pokemon
word
is
for word
Persian,
instead of the final draft.
besides the
And
other
it only gets
Pokemon he
worse as we
uses.
continue.
And that makes me
So
out to
anyway,
Team
Laszlo's
Rocket
first
jealous.
inclination is to rush to the camp bathroom, where we find that the line is super, super long. I'm just gonna show you this picture here, and see if you can see why the plot doesn't make sense with this premise. The woods are fucking everywhere. Like,
'Cause it's
tell
a
me you've
forest.
never been camping before
Duh.
without telling me that you've never been camping before.
Lack of self-awareness here is beyond parody.
Hall
Most
monitor.
summer camps don't want you to do your business in the woods. That is why they have actual bathrooms. He later tries to defend this point by saying that
Here's
Lazlo
my
should be
voice
inclined to piss in the
impersonation
woods
of
regardless because
Meowth
he's a
when
spider monkey.
he's jealous
And he even
of
cites Jake from my
jealous
gym
and
partner's a monkey as an
hatred
example.
of
I
Giovanni's
remember
Persian.
growing up, my mom would always
Grr,
get Lazlo
I
and Jake
hate
Partner
that
mixed up
stuck.
whenever either of them came on.
Sorry.
Because they both started
Let me try it
monkeys.
again.
I'm starting to think Enter
Grr,
made that same mistake
I
and has
hate
been
that
talking
stuck
about an
up
episode of Jake
poison.
Partner this whole time. Because in
Sorry.
Camp Lazlo,
Sorry,
the
it's
monkey
my
show he's
voice
supposed to be
impersonation right
talking
there.
about, the talking animals act like people, not wild animals. So no shit they're gonna prioritize a normal bathroom. This is like complaining that when Mordecai from Regular Show is fleeing from something, he runs instead of flies. It's just nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking.
Nitpicking.
Then you'll never expect what happens in an episode about urine. It gets kind of gross. Lazlo pees so much the lake rises.
Oh,
And when a fish played by
that's-
Edward scolds
oh,
him,
that's
I don't swim
nasty.
in your toilet, so please don't whiz in my home.
Lazlo
That's nasty.
absorbs it back in like a sponge.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, you
Edward.
got the same musical sting pack that SpongeBob has. I love that one.
Edward is
We'll dive more
disguised
into
as a
this later,
fish to
and
trick
let's be real,
Lazlo?
this type of thing isn't unheard of for Enter, but he's taking a joke that's relatively tame in execution.
I
and
could
painting
hear
it to be
one of
far
those
more
background
disturbing and
music
disgusting than it
suspense
actually is.
icons from
He
SpongeBob.
also desperately tries to draw more comparisons to
and also
SpongeBob
from Ren
because
and
of Lazlo
Stimpy.
reverse peeing, and the music sting that plays when the fish is revealed to be Edward. Both comparisons are too forced to be a valid argument, but not forced enough to loop back around into being funny. Especially the latter comparison, since a lot of SpongeBob music can be heard in cartoons that came out before
Like
it.
Kablam
Way
and
too
Ren
many
and
people
Stimpy.
forget this for some reason, but like, SpongeBob wasn't the first cartoon ever made.
Finally, Lazlo decides to try and pee on
Actually,
the
it was
only tree that looks like it's being used for something else. But Edward stops him. I know that Edward doesn't really
Oh,
care.
now I'm
but,
hearing
like,
the
why
wind,
would Lazlo
the
care what
wind
Edward
song
thinks?
from
Lazlo
Chrono
is
Trigger.
usually so in his own little world that being criticized is the last thing he tends to care about.
No, he's not. Outside of a few episodes where they do push his stupidity too far, Lazlo is generally grounded enough in reality to where he can at least recognize when he's being criticized, and he'd definitely care about being perceived as a savage.
Edward disguised himself as the fish, and Lazlo didn't seem put up the out of order sign.
Out of
but
order
every
sign.
other time that Lazlo is trying to pee, Edward is there. You know, the grump who has a grudge that Lazlo knows is a grump who holds a grudge. The fact that Lazlo doesn't put two and two
Just
together
like
makes him
Squidward.
frustrating in a season 6 SpongeBob kind of way.
Where in the episode do they indicate that Lazlo knows that Edward is holding a grudge? When Edward vowed to get his revenge, the campers had already hoisted Lazlo away to celebrate and take pictures. As far as we know, the last thing Lazlo
Alan,
saw from Edward before he
embarrassing.
started fucking with him was him passing out.
Unedited portion of the episode for proof from not a 2007 recording, too.
Hooray for Lazlo. Wait, what? Hooray for Lazlo? I refuse to lose like this. This isn't over, Lazlo.
Okay, let's have a group picture with the champion. I want to stand next to the champion.
And of course he's not going to immediately assume the worst in Edward because he sees Edward as a friend. Again, I'm sure those details got lost on you from all that not watching the show you've been doing, but it's pretty important and it kind of clears up this plot hole you made up.
So anyway, Lazlo pees for like 3 days.
Did they? Oh, dripping plant.
Please stop trying to put the image of a monkey's dick in my brain.
I first saw this episode when I was 5, and even back
What?
then, I understood the innuendo behind that last live-action bit. And I've seen this episode multiple times since. And even so, I can confidently say that it had never once made me start thinking about monkey dicks. Now,